We're here on day 6 of 7 ways to own your phone. And, today I think what we're doing is, again, just drilling a little deeper down. You're going to find that we reference back to some of the things that we've already covered in the first ones because they deal with this topic of, in particular, social media, which is such a draw, such a challenge, such a blessing, and yet also something that can be not a blessing.
Let's just call it a curse.
Okay.
Well, I'm just gonna put it out there. I'll do it.
I'll
do it. Okay. So yeah, we should be at this point in our reclaiming ownership of our phone already maybe recognizing some boundaries, some safeguards that we've put that impact our social media apps through our devices. So one, if our bedtime is set, maybe we're not doing that right before sleep or first thing in the morning. Yeah. We talked then about the do not disturb. That is hiding any notifications or, that kind of intrusion in social media during those windows.
Rearranging your screens so that you kind of hide that stuff that's
They're
more
on the back
time-consuming.
page now, right?
Page.
We already put them on the back page. Maybe we even recognize, I don't need to have every social media portal on my phone. Maybe I don't need to have any of the apps. Maybe I make it a little bit more challenging and I have to go through the URL part, to my Facebook on URL or whatever, or really with the idea that I'm not going to have my social media all the time everywhere I am. Yeah. It's going to be, my Facebook time is going to be on my laptop. Or maybe it is an iPad or something like that, but it's not with you in your back pocket.
Well, and even if you really felt like you needed to get on there for some reason, and you're on your phone, you don't have to download the app to get on there. You can go through your browser.
Right.
And you were talking about something you can do if you're using it in your browser. There's a feature that can really help keep you from getting sucked into that newsfeed scrolling thing.
Yeah, so there's a couple of apps that are out there that give you a couple of options. Again, this is only the case if you're going through your browser, so this is not going to apply if you're using the Facebook app. But there's an app called Feedless, and you can download that app. The Facebook portion is free. If you want to add it to other social media portals, I think you have to pay in the app for that part. But basically what it does is it makes your news feed disappear. So basically, because for me personally, I don't really like getting sucked into the news feed. It's not an environment I enjoy. But it is addictive. Yeah. It's designed to be that way. But I need to be on Facebook because I do get messages. I help manage the church page. So this is a cool thing for me because it can make the news feed disappear, but all of the other features of Facebook are there. So Feedless is one option. It actually just puts an inspiring quote where your news feed would be.
I think some people would say, if there's no news feed, what do I even do on Facebook? Because we haven't, really, that's what we do. We get on and we get sucked in and we're scrolling and then we haven't done anything else. But we can still check in on the people we love even without a newsfeed.
Well, it brings more intentionality to it. It's not the mind-numbing, kind of, unending loop, right? There's kind of we always think that there's going to be the end of the newsfeed and it's, it never ends, which it's designed, again, to do that, to keep us scrolling. So the idea is, I'm not going to go on there to see what I really am not thinking about. I'm going to go on and I'm going to hey, how's this buddy from college doing? I'm going to go check in on his page, do my search, go in, check on him, maybe send him a message, post something on his wall, whatever.
You could even scroll through your friends, and just start at a different letter each day and say, hey, I'd like to see what they're doing.
So it's bringing more intentionality and kind of filtering the unwanted or uninvited things that we run across in our news feeds. Again, then it's someone else dictating what we're seeing that day instead of us choosing what we want to set our minds on.
And I've heard almost everyone complain about Facebook algorithms that like you don't even see the things you want to see, and you see all the stuff you don't want to see. And why do you see this person all the time, and you never see, you know, your brother or your mother or whoever that you want to see? So like this is a way of just saying, you know, forget that whole thing where Facebook just shows you what they want to show you by whatever system they came up with, and instead, I'm going to go look at the people I want to see.
You know, I think there's some things within Facebook that you can do also. Another hack that somebody showed me recently was, you know, they're like, I don't like getting into all the other stuff of Facebook, but, you know, my daughter's team has a page and I need to be synced with that, like in tune to what's going on that page, because they'll post a practice time or some important announcement for the team. And so she showed, like, if you're following a group like that, you can actually isolate that and make it a widget, which is kind of the tile, you know, the app tile on your phone, and it directly links to that group page, and you're not going into all the other newsfeed vortex that can become Facebook. Okay. But what about some other things?
Yeah, let's talk for a second about one of the other realities of Facebook for a lot of people, and not just Facebook. You know, different generations, it's different stuff. So
sorry,
Instagram,
again, clearly we're, you know, aging ourselves.
Instagram,
here.
Twitter. Like,
remember MySpace, Neil?
As a matter of fact, I do. I met my wife on MySpace.
Well, there you go. So it can be a blessing.
It can be a blessing. It has been a very rich blessing.
Okay, I'm sorry. I interrupt, yeah.
So, one of the things that has been well documented, well researched, is this addiction that happens with likes and comments, where you post something. Maybe some people listening today may not be posters, right? You're not much of a poster. I post sometimes. I know what this feels like. I put something out there, and I'm like, I wonder if anyone likes that. I wonder if did I upset anyone? You know, or did they think that this was, you know, wise and pithy or whatever, you know? So I go on there and I look and I see, okay, well, how many people liked it? Okay, 5 minutes later, did anyone else like it? You know, and this for sure, like I've heard, in particular with like your teenage daughters that are on like Instagram or whatever they're on, that they're posting, you know, maybe a selfie, and then they are like hooked on like how many people like it. And if there's less people that like it now,
self-image and identity
gets wrapped up in
is tied up in that. And let's face it, I mean, it's not just teenagers, right? We can easily get sucked into that like instant gratification of approval. So
one
can I just one thing kind of with that I heard that I thought was a good idea was like initially the idea of Facebook, maybe other social media portals, is like, well, you're sharing your family photos, you know, it's like a family photo album. That's harmless. What's the deal with that? This speaker kind of drew this contrast of like, but people aren't like picking up your family photo album that's on your coffee table and giving thumbs up, you know, and liking it, loving it, hearting it.
Oh, this one's the best
you know,
one.
Yeah. Or like, well, what's the deal? You've like put on 50 pounds since this picture, like giving negative feedback too, right? So it's different.
Yep. So, you know, one of the light, simple first steps that you can take that I took recently was just to turn off all notifications for when people like something that I post, so that it's not telling me every time someone likes something. So like if I get on Facebook, you know, you've got the little notification thing that pops up, and of course it's like, you know, you have 50,000 notifications, you know, since the last 2 minutes when you got on there. Well, thinning those out, like you can set within all those social media apps and platforms, and whether you're on your browser or your phone, you can set what you want to be notified about, just like you can in your phone settings for apps. So within the app, you can take control of some stuff that will give you some freedom from being stuck in that.
Yeah. Hey, one more app that I learned about is called To-Do Book. And what that does is it replaces your Facebook feed with your to-do list. So until you've checked through your to-do list, your feed doesn't appear. So that's another tool maybe for people who just like, you get sucked into the feed, you know it's hindering productivity at work or just other things that you know should be priorities. And so you could set that and kind of utilize a tool like that.
Sounds good. We'll try to show you some of this stuff.
couple of these apps that I mentioned, you can find them in the App Store, and apparently Neil wanted to put Tetris back on his phone after I deleted it. Busted. Okay, so anyways, we can just search. The one is called Feedless, and it just looks like this. Feedless. Okay, and so you can get that and download it. Again, it is actually usable for other social media platforms beyond Facebook, but I believe the Facebook one is free. And then if you want to add other platforms, you have to pay for those. So that is an option there.
Okay, I'm going to show you how to go into Facebook and change your notifications, in particular around those likes that tend to draw us back into Facebook again and again when we've posted something. And this process would be similar for Instagram, but I think actually Facebook's probably the hardest that I've seen. By the way, you'll notice screen time limits. I've reached my limit on some of my apps, or a group of apps there, and it's grayed them out and put a little timer by them. So that's what that looks like, if you're curious. Let me back out so you can see the whole process. So basically, when you normally go into Facebook, you're going to see a page like this, right? And down here, you can click on this to get to a bunch of options. And down towards the bottom is settings. And you have to scroll through settings. They don't make it easy. You have to keep going. And you'll find notifications. And there's several options, and you can choose notification settings. And when you look through here, you've got lots of things you can change on how it notifies you and whether it notifies you about all of these different things. And one thing that you won't find in here is likes, because they don't put that in there. They don't make it obvious. I really think that that's one of the ways that they keep us coming back. So anyway, what you're looking for is more activity about you. And when you go in there, then it says in the fine print that this is when people like your posts and things on your timeline. So turn it off and don't get those anymore. And so, yep, that's where you, if you have it on, you choose how you're notified. But I turned it off. Are you sure you want it? Yeah, I do. Thank you. All right. That's how you do it.
All right, so, one of the things we talked about this past Sunday is kind of this framework of how to regain ownership of our devices. What can I leave? What can I limit? And then how can I leverage this tool for love of God and others, right? And so, all of these are really answers to that question. We've talked about things we can leave, things we can limit, how we can put limitations. Today, especially with social media, I think the question of how do we leverage this for love of God and others is worth us asking. If we're going to be on social media, we have a responsibility to speak life and to be light. And so as we're closing out today, maybe just pray about that. The boundaries you're setting around the social media, ways to regain control, not just of the time limit, but also just the heart with which we're engaging in those spaces.